First agenda item is an update on the tourist development tax, or the TDT. And do you guys?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So our tourist tax collections fell slightly in October compared to the same month in 2022. So it's continuing a downward trend that began in April. Comptroller Diamond has urged the board to spend tourist tax revenues cautiously, recommending that the county keep at least $300 million in the reserves. As you all know, on October 3rd, the county approved an increase in spending for arts and culture, Project 5A and 5B of the Convention Center, and the UCF Sports Football Stadium Tower renovation. These projects were recommended for approval by the Citizen Task Force, along with the following projects that are still up for discussion. So that would be the Amway Center, the Dr. Phillips Center, and the Camping World Stadium.
What's the total amount of the funds?
They've never said. They've only said that you should issue up to $900 million in bonds. That's what the county can, quote unquote, afford.
So we can assume that they're going for the $900 million, and
that's what the
Bill Diamond has recommended that they keep $300 million back. Why don't they just not borrow $300 million of the $900 and just borrow $6?
So, right. So then those venues that are still left up for discussion are owned by the city of Orlando. The TDT discussion item will be scheduled next for January 23rd, 2024, and that will cover matters relating to the ongoing topics of the future TDT revenue spending. So that'll be our venues agreement, Visit Orlando agreement, and allocation of TDT for the remaining projects. The board is discussing the community venues agreements because in the contracts where Orange County has initially allocated TDT funding for Amway Center, Dr. Phillips, and Camping World Stadium, there is a line in there that states that the city of Orlando will assume responsibility for the maintenance of the venues. And so the commissioners have asked to discuss this during the BCC meeting. So we've already heard some arguments from some of the venues saying that their requests are technically maintenance, not maintenance, for renovations. So that'll be Amway Center and Dr. Phillips Center, but we know that the Dr. Phillips Center is really not asking for a renovation. They want like a whole new amphitheater indoor lawn. So I think that is up for debate still on whether that is maintenance or renovation for the other venues. As for the Visit Orlando agreement, we know that the board decided on November 14th that the TDT funding provided to Visit Orlando for marketing should be reduced from 30%, where it's currently at, and that the end of our contract, which will be October 1st, 2024, the board directed County Administrator Byron Books to renegotiate the terms of the contracts. And Commissioner Bonilla proposed a reduction to 25% of the total TDT collections, or $75 million, whichever is less, I believe. Arguments by the commissioners are that they never expected Visit Orlando's budget to exceed $100 million. Now that they have Visit Orlando, doesn't necessarily know how to spend all of the money, and they have tons of excess money left over each year. So I believe during the next BCC meeting, they want to talk about how to narrow down the terms of what the renegotiations will look like. And the mayor is still pressuring the board to make a decision on the remaining projects, being Dr. Phillips, Amway, and Camping World. And one last note is that the Board of County Commissioners have agreed to meet for a sunshine meeting on the TDT discussions on January 16th. From 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. You are all welcome to attend.
Topic of discussion on the sunshine.
It's mostly Visit Orlando, but we left it kind of up in the air if they wanted to talk about the community venues agreements and the other items that will be discussed on January 23rd. And we'll have commissioners for District 1 through 5 have agreed to attend. Commissioner Scott still might join us.
So the Visit Orlando, this is marketing for tourism, correct? Mm-hmm. And then The rest of the money is to be spent on the 3 venues.
Now, so Biz Orlando is currently receiving 30% of all TDT collections.
Right.
The rest of the money that we have can be allocated towards sports, arts, and we have some money that is being paid back. Like we're paying back our debts.
Right.
And then we have another part of the funding that is going towards these projects. The ones that have already been approved are UCF, Arts and Culture, and UCF, Arts and Culture. No. Convention Center, that's right. So then I guess there's still money in that we're able to bond or whatever the case may be. The idea originally was that if we reduce Mr. Orlando's spending, then we can use that funding to cover the cost of the other projects, or at least part of it.
Sure. Now,
Which is revenue versus borrowing and paying back.
What was the other meeting date? It was January 23rd is the sunshine. What was that first?
January 23rd is the BCC meeting where they're going to talk about those 3 items. And then January 16th is the sunshine meeting.
16th. It's happening.
The sunshine meeting will be on the 5th floor in the BCC conference room. Any comments or recommendations for commissioners?
I don't know enough about it to have a.
It's going in the right direction. The discussion is still being TDT as it's structured in state statute is not intended to prevent investment into infrastructure. So the continued investment into things like the convention center without doing any type of diminishing return study or economic impact analysis, and just going off of the word of what the convention center says is the impact. I hope that they will lobby. Are they supposed to be lobbying the
Yes,
legislature?
the mayor did attend the legislative delegation that was last week, and he did ask for the representatives and senators to consider the tourist impact tax to expand to include other counties, including ours, so that we can use it for things like transportation projects and housing. That would be the tourist impact tax, and we don't believe it's going to pass considering our current legislature. But it would be nice if they, if they supported it and worked on it.
When you pay out the TDT should be, a portion of those funding should be allocated to transportation because it is part of, again, the infrastructure of tourism.
It's part of our hospitality towards tourists.
Yes.
Getting them from the airport to the convention center is an essential part of that. So it should be included.
TDT language doesn't allow that, but I think the tourist impact tax would.
Mayor said at that meeting that the convention center was our bread and butter.
It's the only thing that the county owns, so it's, they love to say that one.
The sinkhole is what it
It
is.
is. It runs at a deficit. Bread
It
and
doesn't
butter.
turn profit.
No.
Then why do they do that?
Exactly.
Wow,
Is
that's
it how full is the convention center with conventions?
It's like 60% of the time or something.
oh, I think it's less than that.
I personally haven't really heard.
So welcome. Yeah, you can set it here
But this is for the project,
for a meeting.
This is for the District 5 meeting.
it's for the, something that they doing some straight and metal,
Split oak,
construction or
yeah, we're
something.
gonna talk about split oak.
Perfect. Okay.
So CRC topics next.
DRC topic, so I can't, Gina's not here yet, he's supposed to be right behind me. Here's what I know from the meetings that I've attended, so I'll start backwards. The creation of a public bank committee, that's a committee that's taken on an interesting vibe because the lead lobbyist banks started to come to these meetings and attend and speaking against it.
Who is the lead lobbyist for banks?
He's a gentleman from Tallahassee, and I can't recall his name, but he started driving down and attending the meetings. And in the last meeting, there were about 13 suits that were there that were from the banking industry speaking against public banking. So there's a large misunderstanding where people think that the public banking is about giving people loans. It has nothing to do with that. It's that the government is using a network of local banks here for all of the transactions and fees and things, and therefore reduces the expense each month in banking fees. So it's a different concept idea. So there's that one. It's kind of chugging along. They've got an expert that's going to be giving a presentation at the next committee meeting for that. The Initiative Petitions Committee, I don't have an update on those meetings. The Government Structure Committee is also kind of chugging along in terms of discussions. They've now talked to Teresa Jacobs, Linda Chapman, and Mayor Dennings about the separation of the powers. And Teresa Jacobs took kind of a neutral opinion and kind of saw it from both ways, whereas Linda Chapman was not receptive to the idea. And Mayor Dennings more so alluded to that he felt as though it was a personality problem that was occurring, and that's why people wanted him off the board. But it pertains to not only just removing the mayor from the seat, but then also taking the offices or the departments that operate exclusively under the mayor, like the county attorney or the Department of Economics. They only operate under the mayor. So if he's removed to the executive branch from the legislative branch, then those departments would operate more independently and would be available for the BCC to access as well, the commissioners. So that one is moving along as well.
Interestingly, he did say that if the mayor is removed from the legislative board, and given the veto power, that would be almost worse than to keep him on it, which I thought was good.
We don't have to give him veto power. That would be up to the
He
people.
said it would only be equitable if he was given veto power,
Well,
or if any mayor was given veto
that
power.
would actually increase its power.
The weak mayor form, I don't think it's veto power. I don't. So that's the outcome of that structure committee, and then the Sustainable Growth and Charter Cleanup Committee has two initiatives underneath that. One is taking the affordable housing fund that was created and putting it within the Constitution or the charter to protect it, to ensure and to provide a permanent funding source for it. And then the other initiative is the rural boundary. And the rural boundary is moving along. It looks like it's going to make it out of the committee and will be available for vote on the general floor of the larger CRC in just the next couple of months. So that's version. You two have done a much better job, but that's all I know from our discussions. I'm not familiar with number one in terms of, I do know that this was presented, but I don't know the outcome of the discussion or anything like that. It's a 0.5% transportation sales surtax funding for mass transit. And after that, I don't know what is the outcome of that one. Chairman Hardage and Tom Allen had met to discuss this item yesterday. But I don't know something.
This sounds a lot like the sales tax initiative that died because of the COVID pandemic.
Oh.
Is it the same? Sounds very similar.
Maybe according to the charter, it's not.
Right.
So there was that one, and then there's, was a, presentation on making our nonpartisan elections partisan again. And then the wetlands, water quality, and flooding. I didn't hear that presentation in the CRC, did you guys? Eugene will come, we can fill us in. So next is the update on the Florida Wildlife Corridor. It was a topic that was discussed today at the IWC meeting. Do not have an update on that item. Do you guys have an update on that item? We did that for them. Okay.
Did you stay for that?
I had to go give a final thing. Then the split of forest, wildlife, and environmental area conservation easement. Do you guys want to?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to touch on that, especially on behalf of Commissioner Bonilla, who was saddened that she couldn't make it to today's meeting. She did have a couple of strong words about Split Oak, and while I did, hi Eugene.
Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Hi.
So,
CRC topic.
oh yeah, let's, before I start this, we could rewind to the CRC topics that we, before we get to farming.
Let's see ours.
Because we just kind of breezed through the
Oh, that's-
topics
I
that
did
you're
my
the expert
best.
at.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I tried my best.
Okay, which topics?
So you're in letter B there, sustainable growth.
The Charter Review Commission
Okay,
topics.
sustainable growth, charter cleanup. We have a meeting coming up on the 18th, I believe. We're 98% done on the charter language at this point. Let me make sure I get the dates right here. Yes, sustainable. Yeah, it's at 2:30 in the afternoon up on the 4th floor. We're really close. We changed the path last time to look at the vision maps. So it looks like we were gonna do the roll boundary this time in the language we think really good that we got. So the next one will probably be when we make the vote to move on to the commission. Next thing is government structure.
Was there something about affordable housing in
There is, and we just talked a little bit, because we've been looking at sustainability. And we're bringing that up, as soon as we finish this, then we move on to that. So the affordable housing is,
there? But this is regarding the state law on, God, I can't remember.
oh, the way I think that we're gonna address this, probably sort of what our county did, is kind of put it in a charter saying we want a certain percentage earmarked towards
A certain percentage
of the budget.
of
The county budget, we're gonna. Going back a little bit, there was a transportation charter amendment for California County that passed. And it had two things in it. One was a mandatory certain percentage directing from the executive branch to the legislative branch to do something. But then they mandated a certain amount of money to be spent too. Supreme Court looked at that and said, okay, you're okay on the percentage, but you can't tell them how much to spend. So we took that as, we probably can make a percentage. We can't tell the BCC what to do. So money-wise, so that's how we're gonna try to, I think one of the ways that the chair is gonna look at how to do that. So that's gonna start coming alive again, heavy after we finally get this roll boundary done. Monday on the 18th. And then housing, and then partially there's a little bit of cleanup in there that we're still probably gonna come back and address that too. We have done a little bit about that, but we will be focused. serially trying to get this first thing done. Housing, time share about 10%. We haven't been just, sorry. The government structure we voted, we did make a vote two meetings ago that we're not changing the cycle of the CRC, so that's all. It's still gonna be 4 years. So that's done. I think we're starting to work on the language of the mayor and the legislature. I don't know what the language is gonna look like. We have a meeting tomorrow, on Monday, 11th at 1:30 in the afternoon. So that's when our next thing is gonna come up with that. I talked to the attorney, and he thinks that we will start moving on that. He's developing language for us to consider with direction. There's going to be some type of separation. We just don't know how much we can get politically to agree. So some of us want full breakage. Some would rather have the mayor still sitting on the BCC. Then most likely we would have thought to be a strong mayor, to be a veto on executive branch for getting them off, which then brings up the issue of we need a commissioner. So that's a lead into our next issue, is expansion of commissioners, 1 or 2. We get rid of the mayor, then obviously we need 1 additional. And then additionally, there's another topic that is the term limits. So 1 or 2 term limits, that's up for debate still. So that's another thing we got. So that committee is really loaded down, and we need to get moving on stuff. You know it. Initiative petition. We have a meeting next on December 11th at 11 a.m. We have made really good movement on that. We might be ready to make a vote that day to move to the commission. We've seriously changed the language and simplified it. So it's more like what we had in 2012 now, but 2016. Thanks to the D5 commissioners, we've kind of worked on that, got cleaned up. So that one's looking really good. Public bank, unfortunately, we had our last meeting, at least we have one more, but we made a vote yesterday to not do anything with it because we're not sure what to do with it. It's such a new topic, none of us could get our hands around it. Additionally, we have a lot of state statutes that are going to stop us in our tracks. So we talked to the citizens and said, this is the first shot. We need to come back in 4 years and try to solve some of these problems in the legislature if we can, because we have a political situation in the state that is tough. But they really be strict on how they have simple things like it has to be FDIC type bank. Well, FDIC makes no sense when you're dealing with $50 or $60 million in the bank with these payrolls and other cash issues like you do as a can. FDIC only comes you up to $250,000. But that's one of those things that they put in there, make it tough. And this state is not pro public bank. And it was tough because North Dakota is pro public bank. And there is something that I think is there. We all agreed as a committee that we know there's something there that is probably good because all the lobbyists from Tallahassee and everyone came to our meeting. So we know something really was good. We just don't know exactly how to get our hands around it. It's a very big subject.
I think even small local banks will be FDIC. And have you had a lot of input from small local banks?
The community banks are there too.
Yeah. They were, so not just the
and there's actually
lobbyists for the big banks in Tallahassee.
Yeah, and there's there's hindrances even in the legislature that they pass that make it tough for the small banks to deal with that. Sharing responsibilities and controllers part. They've passed quite a few handcuffs down to the local governments to make sure they work within a certain way within the banking institution. As a, out of all the committees I sit on, by far this was the most populated committee. I was really surprised when 12 people showed up.
That's good money.
Money. Yeah, it really, so we know there's something there. What we need is some really bright people who know financials. Because I know how to do my home stuff, I know how to do some. The two attorneys are really bright people, but none of us are financial experts. And that's what we need to make this work. And maybe what we have to do is spin off a work group independent of CRC, just develop this concept as a community to see if we can pitch it again in 4 years. That's something that maybe we need to address. Do this because it really, to write a charter amendment of a charter of a bank to get past the voters is going to be really difficult because we got to write a bank institutional structure within a charter. That's not a simple task. I think it's a great idea, but it really requires us to actually think about it now. What we really need is form a committee separate from the CRC. Just work on it independently. Maybe share the task, share minds, try to work towards it. I think there is a good thing there because they do get a hell of a lot of fees out of us. There's a lot of fees that we're paying every month. And the amount of fees that we're paying, according to Kelly, it's like $20 million a month. We could do some major housing just off the fees that we're paying us. So there's a lot of money there. We gotta figure out how to work it, but this was not the time to do it. And I was really upset we couldn't do anything, and all of us were upset. We just hit the wall. Every time we had a professor from Colorado was speaking to us who was an expert on this. And he would bring up what they do at North Dakota. And attorney Wallace would say, "No, that's great, but this is what we have in Florida. So do not go. Or do not, you can move, but you gotta jump 18 feet to the left and then as you're going to the right." They made it really difficult for Florida to do anything. And that's what we need probably, I'm thinking about right now, is we need probably a separate issue. We get a really good plan the thing that worked on, for example, Split Oak last time, the thing that really impressed me on that was Jimmy Afon wrote the whole charter amendment, presented the charter amendment, and all they did was tweak it. That really told me as a commissioner, that's the way you really do this. If you really want to move something through, you spend the time, you write the complete charter, you've done your homework, put it into the commission, and all they do is redline it. That's why I only took 5 meetings in that time, and it was out the door. 10 to 3, 10 to 4. And, so, and it made a statement. So, that's the way I think the future, on the next CRC, that's what we have to do. Not even on this one, I've tried to do that. I've worked with the community and said, you gotta get this right. At least some stuff working as words, because you don't want to just start with a blank piece of paper. Because you end up potentially failing. And public bank is a totally new thing. Out of all the things that we've addressed in the last 30 years with this CRC, there's a totally out the door new. No one knew this, how to deal with it. So, and I think honestly, everyone on the commission and the attorney, we try our best to do something. This is too difficult of a subject to deal with right now.
I find it very strange that North Dakota is the place where this idea has caught on.
It's been out there since.
And maybe it's because they're so sparsely populated.
This population is less than Florida. I mean, Orange
It's probably
County,
less than
Orange County.
yes.
It's about 1.4
The entire state.
Entire
Yeah,
state.
but politically they're
Very conservative.
very conservative. And
it's mainly a farming bank because their banks are so, it's such a low level of population that it actually works for them. It didn't, during the Great Depression and after the war, World War II, not the other wars, it did go into kind of like a very quiet period, but it's come back again. So, and they can, according to what the professor said, they didn't have any of the problems that we had in 2008. Now, the private banks all attack the public bank because of all the government subsidies. Well, I never got to say it, but they've been heavily subsidized at the tune of a couple $1 trillion since at least the 70s. Resolution Trust Fund,
Sure,
we've
we've seen repeated episodes of giving money to banks to build.
yeah, and then it's taxpayer, and then quantitative easing. Come on, that's trillions of dollars that we put in as taxpayers. So please. So I knew there was something good here because they were walking with hip waiters through the.
So considering that it's gonna be tabled, this is an opportunity to get a committee or a task force, within even, let's look at our university infrastructure. Are there any veteran, people in the financial space that
She's in
can,
comments. She would. I mean, I'm an
that could
engineer, so
potentially bring someone that would take
Cannot
the
do
lead?
it.
now we need to find someone who knows. But you might.
Somebody that knows within
We
that.
don't reach out to someone in the league that might have banking experience. We might have people in the league because there's some really affluent, educated people in that group.
Where did this idea come to the CRC from?
This came from
A constituent. That was.
Nelson. It was Nelson. It was Nelson. Nelson.
He's the one who brought the expert from,
Colorado.
Colorado to,
Well, does this person have banking experience?
No, not Nelson.
Okay.
I mean, I think he wants to make this work, but he doesn't have the background as I do. Because we talked about having, trying to develop charter language. It's just hard because people from other states don't know the political situation that we're in. In Florida, it's tough. They're making it tough. We are moving towards a centralized government, legislative, all the powers go back. We're going pre-68 Constitution at this point, the previous Constitution. That's where we're going.
But I think there's a lack of understanding of how the full infrastructure of it, what it entails.
Yeah.
And having someone, again, that has that level of expertise
can
to
just-
dive in and get, again, the
That's
core
what
of
we need.
what the
We need to
fundamentals
find some
are.
people that actually want to put the time into it, study, and we need a financial expert, banking expert. We need a attorney that knows Florida statutes. We need a person like a comptroller who deals with this stuff. Tired guy out there, we need generic. Well, we need someone in county government or something. Someone who's worked in Florida that knows all the ins and outs of how you have to make it work. Because the comptroller office was against this big time, and he spoke quite a few times against it. And that's probably because he has a bunch of things over his head that he has to meet. He's the guy that signs the checks. So it's his name if there's a problem, he goes to jail.
Yeah, it seems to me like we have to get people, local banking industry behind it. And if we can't do that, that probably means that the entire ecosystem is not well enough developed to support the county's financial needs
To get through the
anyway.
hurdles
Yeah.
of
And
Florida.
they would be the ones that would have the most interest in seeing something like this happen.
To me, I think we had community banks there, and I think there's a place for community banks and credit unions. As a guy who's never dealt with big banks that much, they would like to get lots of fees. I like banks. I think there's something there that would work if we could get someone of interest into there that would work with us, and because there's money to be made locally. If these banks can operate at that level, then they do. Because we do have to have local branches. That's a big thing with the comptroller. Just, if you have a park and you have a manager, they need to deposit that money at the end of the night. And we have that throughout credit centers. Those are the easiest things. But there are other places where We have managers that have to delegate someone to go drop the money off at the proper place. So that's why we need, a public bank conceptually does not have that, because they don't have branches around the state. So we do need something that has branches. They have to have electronic transfers, things like that, so they can operate as we do today. As any of us, we don't actually write checks out ever. We do electronic transfer and everything. So that's what we need. So we need, I think there is a place. I think this was a first step. I know this didn't work, but it like I told them, like, it took like 3 or 4 times on the rural boundary. We might make it this time. We might. This is what, the 3rd or 4th time that we've done this on the rural boundary. So it takes 12, 16 years. It takes a long time sometimes to get this through. I mean, petition that was passed originally in 1986, modified in going a couple times, massively in 26, again in 2020, 24 we're doing it again. So most likely be modified again.
Do you want to talk about the half-cent transportation tax?
I can only tell you what I heard through the grapevine. I heard that there is a public meeting on Monday. I don't know if anyone attended that. Yes, today's Monday.
No, it started like 45 minutes late, and I at that point.
Okay. It was Chair Woman Arnott along with Tom talked, and I think we have a go. We do have a go towards it. That's why I heard.
Who will chair it?
It'll be Tom.
Tom.
Yeah, and with the knowledge of what Hillsborough do, we know what we can do. So it's basically, if we do it, it's going to be a direction towards the legislature that allocates a certain percentage of money, and then the legislature takes that and works the numbers and see what they actually can do. But basically, the same concept can be done with Green Place, because I tried to do that last time. I didn't know that at the time we didn't know if this could work, but we might do that with Green Place. We might bring that one back before, because January is going to probably be the last month we can go through things in. So if you guys want to do anything new, January at the latest, begin in February, because we need to start getting things done and wrapped out. Because we're going to have a couple of things that are going to be passing through the cycle. Because we're going 2 meetings starting January.
What's the difference of the half-cent transportation sales tax and the mayor's penny tax? Except for, of course, the half-cent.
I think what they're going to try to do is, if I understand what's happening, the proposal was we're going to have a much more focused mass transit type half-cent or percentage. We're going to dictate that it's
And it would go in the charter.
from the charter.
So it wouldn't just be a
When
legislative initiative of the county, it would actually be written into the charter. So I think that's kind of the main difference.
Yeah, and it's going to be not whimsical based on the flimms of the feeling of we'll put money over here now. Oh, someone wants it over here, fine.
Right.
It's going to be dictated. In my book, as an old federal guy, I believe in dictating where the money's going. So if we're going to do mass transit, in my head, the thing that the school board did, I thought was smart, is they did a short term, 10 years is relatively short in cycling of engineering field and stuff. But also they said, this is what we're going to do. And they put a list out. And that built up confidence. We now voted again on that a couple years ago. And people are pretty happy with what they're seeing. They've lived up to their bargain that they said they're going to do this. And that's all we had from the legislature and the mayor here was trust us for 30 years. No, that's too long.
Yeah, that's so those kind of initiatives that require voter buy-in are always super difficult to pass.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I like about this is it can be wrapped up in the charter. And why even call it a half cent? Why don't you just say this is going to be a percentage of the total transportation expenditures are going to go towards rail, bus, bike lanes, and
The
whatnot.
half cent is probably gonna evolve to the direction of percentage.
Right, because,
We can't dictate a half cent.
No,
Legally, I
no,
don't
it's-
think that would fly.
and that's kind of counterproductive, I think, because it makes people think that their taxes are gonna be raised to half a cent. Whereas in fact, what we're talking about is earmarking a certain percentage of the total transportation budget for sustainable and public transportation.
Yeah.
Buses, trains, bike lanes, and whatnot,
Instead of roads.
instead of road
And
building.
basically, what I
Yes.
think it's kind of cool is let's say we do, okay, minimally 5% of the budget should be going, of the should go, or whenever that budget, let's say it's 5. That leaves up the legislature to come up with money. They have many ways of doing it. They could just take the existing budget we have today, or say, oh, we have 1 cent, we have an exercise in our gas tax or something like that. We have pennies that we have to exercise in our system. And that's why the legislature is really hesitant to do anything for us, because we haven't exercised all of our pennies. There's certain pennies are dictated by statutes on how we spend our gas tax dollars, and they're dictated to be specifically spent on certain things. Orange County has not exceeded and used all
Right,
of the
because
pennies.
Orange County doesn't necessarily agree with the Florida legislature about where the money should be spent.
Yeah.
Nor do I. But if we can write it into the charter in this way where it's just a percentage and not a half cent, because that sounds like your taxes are going up by half a cent.
And it's kind of restricted, because, we set up in the charter some type of scope of minimum amounts of money with a very tight envelope of what this money will be spent on. And we can set up the parameters that this money has to be spent within this time period. So we see feedback as taxpayers. Personally, I want to see if I gave you $100 million, and you promised to build 3 more links, loop systems. Yeah, I want to see that. Or if you're going to buy 200 new electric buses, I want to see that. So with this type of mechanism, we could do that if we set it up correctly.
Yeah, and the other thing to think about this is we're very quickly coming up on the time at which the state of Florida is going to download Sunrail onto the local jurisdictions. And that's going to be an enormous financial commitment for us. And so this is a way that we can start to address that.
Mhm.
But I just think it makes more sense not to call it a half cent transportation sales surtax and just say we're going to allocate a certain percentage of the total transportation budget, right? And that way it's not perceived as a new tax.
Yeah,
That's what's going to.
I don't, that's a placeholder right now. I think, based on what I'm hearing, it's going to change. It's going to be a direction. Because
Yeah.
based on what I'm hearing from the attorney, we can't dictate what the legislature has to spend on how much they can spend, but we can certainly set a percentage. And then leave it up to the legislature.
Yeah, and that's what we have to do.
That's
what we need to do.
That's what we have to
probably
do.
should do that anyway.
And we can use that tool in a couple places. Besides, like I said, replace another spot. Because we do have a utility tax today that's actually earmarked to go to the green place, but it's not being used because we have a sheriff department that's grabbing all the money. Speaking to Emily, Commissioner, she would like us to establish an MSTU for the sheriff department to dictate this is your money, because right now it's a free fall when you go into that budget that people are looking for money and they're grabbing money out of buckets that we're supposed to be allocated, for example, green place out of utility tax that's being reallocated into the sheriff department. If they need the money, fine. I have no problem paying the sheriff, but they need it. Dang it, we should be honest to ourselves and say they need, I don't know, 400 million. I don't know what their budget looks. 600 million. I don't know what their budget looks like per year. But let's be honest. Let's not play the game. Let's set up an MSTU, and maybe that we need to propose that, and we put that in the charter that the sheriff has to have their own.
What is an MSTU?
Municipal
Service tax
tax unit.
unit. Very good.
Do you want to quickly hit nonpartisan elections and then wetlands, water quality, and flooding? We can move on to the FWC meeting.
can't remember what we did with that. Wetlands, it didn't happen, but it's not dead.
What about the wetlands?
Well, we tried to create, we were gonna try to make, Orange County be the minimum standard of wetlands for protection, EPD, the water, wetland, our current laws and also future, and set that for a minute. And it didn't happen, but we can bring it back. We haven't killed ourselves on that. So I still want to bring that back, because I think, looking at what the city of Orlando has been doing, when they declare something urban, they just nuke it. And we can't afford to do that as a community. We can't afford to lose 50 acres up in the Packet district, which is the the upper portions of the Wekiva, or hundreds of acres down in the Econ Basin, because we're getting flooding. I mean, Blanchard Park got flooded again over that last rain event 2 weeks ago. It came almost up to the swimming pool again. We almost lost the swimming pool again. So that's happening more and more in that area. So, and I blame that a lot on the way that the engineers are designing the flooding capacitance up there. They're putting a lot of fill in places, and we're losing the bladder of the wetlands.
Well, these things are regulated
State.
on the state level. So either the state is failing to properly regulate it, and if the state is properly regulating it, then the county regulations are superfluous.
Yeah, where I wanted to go with
But
this,
the question is the state really properly regulating it? Or are they making it so easy to get through the permitting process that it doesn't address the problem?
I think part of the problem is, for example, the city of Orlando they only have one person who's the manager out there in Orlando, and she's actually qualified at wetlands. No one else in the city. They contract everything individually to different contractors who are,
You know, like the wetlands part?
yeah.
Yeah, but that's a very special.
I know that. I know.
It's not a normal.
I know.
thing.
And that's why, personally, I wanted to see Orange County assume the responsibility of all the equipment, because the city don't have anything like EPD. EPD is.
No, they don't.
No one has that. And that's where I think
Well, some
personally.
of the counties do have strong environmental agencies, like Orange County has.
Yes.
But when you're talking about delegating, you're talking about delegating the state to EPD.
I'm delegating.
Because they've already
I would like to.
has already assumed control over the Army Corps regulations, a lot of them in the state of Florida.
Well, it's the people who are actually doing the checking. And I think one of the problems is the contractors are pushing the bounds. You look at what happened in the Bakken district. They filled in 43 acres of wetlands, and they nuked them. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
of
but
those.
they probably got permits for this.
Of course, a permit is a permit to destroy.
Right. It's
That's all it
permitting
is.
you to destroy something.
Yeah, that's all a permit's about. It's okay to destroy this. Thank you. Here's $50.
But it's not that easy either.
Yeah, but you've been in the business. I've been around the business long enough. Based on the type of people and the organizations, right?
Well, what I'm saying is that just delegating it to the county is not going to necessarily solve the problem. It could very well cause a new problem,
Oh, yeah.
which is that suddenly EPD doesn't have enough staff to do this.
We had to force them to actually deal with
And
the whole
so,
price and
at the very minimum, they would have to greatly increase their staff level. And I'm not sure that that's something that the county really needs to do.
Oh.
We can continue to rely on the water management districts and DEP to do the environmental regulation, and then we don't have to pay for it. But we also have got our own regulatory process with EPD.
But we have to have some type of oversight, because what they're doing, when the city of Orlando nukes the whole wetland, Orange County gets the benefits of the wetland overflow, because the water eventually flows out from the city into the county and floods our people who live downstream. It's happening on Mary Jane, it's happening in Shingle Creek, it's
But
happening.
that's supposed to be addressed by state
But that's
regulation.
not happening. I don't know how we fix that.
Then
We have a broken
the
state.
solution then is to make the state enforce their
How do we
regulations,
do that? I don't, that's beyond,
lawsuits.
we can't get them to protect the econ right now. I mean, Kelly has told us that they're dredging right now. And we're talking about allowing a development on the 14th to go forward when they have an open pit where they're dumping vegetation into after they sow the sand and they shoot drones down because they don't want to be seen.
Well,
That's
I don't wanna jump ahead to that.
Oh.
We're talking now
Did I jump?
about any additional wetland, water quality and flooding regulations that may go into the county charter.
Yeah.
And my point is that having the county assume the responsibility for state and federal regulation is not necessarily a good thing. This, one of the things that you get by having different agencies is you have redundancy. So if one of them really screws up royally, the other ones are not gonna let it happen.
But right now, the Army Corps is giving all their things to St. John. St. John has
This is,
has
yes, but you know why this happened, okay, and I'm not disputing that that's the case. But taking it further and delegating it all to Orange County is not necessarily the solution to that problem. You could just make a bad problem even worse by doing it
So
like
how do we approach the problem? With lawsuits? I mean, how do we get the attorney here that won't?
if there are laws on the book that are not being enforced, then it seems to me that the courts are the right venue to,
But that's
to
not,
address
that's
that.
a citizen thing. That's a citizen have to do that because the county's not doing it.
The citizens can do it, citizens that are being harmed by flooding, I would think have standing
We do,
to sue them,
but
to
then
sue
you have to have the
this
money to
agency.
do it. And then yet, it's not cheap. I mean, that's why the system is broken because.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not disputing that there are problems with the system. I'm disputing that having Orange County EPD assume responsibility for the state and federal government's permitting programs is probably not a great idea. That's all.
I'm just trying to come up with something at this point, because nothing seems to, the state of Florida is broken. As far as a volunteer in the state forestry system, it's broken. It is totally broken.
Who brought this topic forward, Eugene?
That was, Gabby Mitch. And that's, her and I have been talking about it. Gabby pitched it, and I was gonna make a motion.
But there's no update on it yet.
No, it was pitched and there's a lot of talk and people just shut it down. So
Yeah.
it was just too complicated of an issue to deal with. Yeah, so it has to be simplified to be able to make it through a committee.
Yeah, and it seems like you all are running against the clock here. I mean, you have until when, August to finalize?
Oh, no, we have to be done,
July? Yeah.
June, 14th. So
Wow.
we have to have it to the SOE, so it will be finished in May. And June will be just hey, we did a great job, goodbye, have a good life. Because May will be probably the very last meeting that we are actually doing. The final report has to be submitted and presented to us in June. So really, it's June meeting actually is going to be relatively quick.
And when's next full commission meeting?
We haven't got the date yet, but we know we start going every 2 weeks, in January. Because by state statute, we have to have 2 weeks, any charter amendment, just like ordinance. So we have 2 meetings, so we're gonna double our meetings. So that's the fun. Anyway.
Are we ready to talk about the fish and wildlife? Did you attend the portion regarding Florida Wildlife Corridor? There was supposed to be an update. We all missed it over here because the split oak ran for so long.
No, I'm sorry,
No,
It's
no,
okay.
don't apologize,
No,
we didn't either.
It's
We
okay.
were ready
You're
to
a
go.
wealth of knowledge today. so-
My pie barely got finished before I got here.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
Alright,
I'm
so-
not back to that, which fall point.
that's all right. So moving forward, we have Split Oak Forest Wildlife and Environmental Area Conservation Easement Release. Would you like to provide a background, a little history on it?
Charter. Back in 2020, we passed a charter amendment to protect the forest of the county not to give up the land. And through a charter amendment, which passed 86% people. Previous that, during, I guess a few months prior when we were working it, there was in the fall, there was a vote from the commission. Maybe you guys remember that. There was a vote in 2019 that they agreed to move it forward. It wasn't a full vote, it was kind of, Emily could give us more information about that, but it was kind of a weird vote that said, okay, you guys can go do this, but we're not going to agree to anything yet. And it was, so the FTC, the Community Trust Fund, they had to go to look at it, but they moved farther than we thought they were going to. They seemed like they were okay to move. That's why FWC is now moving to release the land. Of course, last week we had a motion by Emily, and it passed 6-1 that we are changed course. We're going to now protect. Orange County wants to protect this. No longer do we want to uproot the thing.
And the commissioner?
Talking about split up.
Split up.
Yes.
Because the previous vote was 4-3 for the road. Emily, who else was on that commission? There was 3 people that voted to protect it. The other 4, including the mayor, voted against it.
Last week?
2 years, 3, 4 years ago. And then last week was District 2 voted to build the road, and everyone else said, no, we don't want the road. I don't know how that's going to play out, because now we have it's a 3-way dance here. I mean, Osseo, Orange, and FTC has to agree. Now you just have 1/3 of the party just walk out the door. So I'm not sure what's going to happen.
FTC.
The Florida Communities Trust Fund. The Community Trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Commissioner Bonilla has prepared a statement on this.
Correct. Ladies and gentlemen of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, I am Commissioner Emily Bonilla, representing Orange County District 5. While I am unable to attend today's meeting in person, I send my deepest regards in this statement through my aid to convey a matter of great importance to our community. On November 28, 2023, the Orange County Board of County Commissioners took a decisive step reflecting the will of our constituents. With an overwhelming majority, we voted to withdraw our support for the pending application before the FCT and FWC regarding the construction of a toll road through the Split Oak Forest. This decision aligns with the unmistakable voice of our community. In the November 2020 general election, an emphatic 86% of Orange County voters supported a charter amendment to protect Split Oak Forest in its current form. This result was not just a statistic, it was a clear and resounding statement from the people we represent. They chose to prioritize the preservation of this vital environmental and wildlife area over the development of a toll road. Split Oak Forest is not just a tract of land, it is a sanctuary for diverse wildlife, a haven for threatened species, and a natural treasure for our community. It represents our commitment to environmental stewardship and our responsibility to future generations. As elected officials, we are entrusted with the duty to represent the interests and uphold the will of our constituents. The people of Orange County have spoken loud and clear. They desire the preservation of Split Oak Forest, unaltered by the proposed toll road. Our recent vote as a commission is a testament to our commitment to honoring the voice of our community. In light of this, I urge the FWC to consider the express will of the people of Orange County. The preservation of Split Oak Forest in its pristine state is a priority for us, and it's our collective responsibility to ensure that this natural asset is protected for the enjoyment and benefit of present and future generations. Thank you for your attention to this matter and considering the will of the people we all serve. Signed, Commissioner Bonilla. She does apologize for not being here today, and there is a brief typo on the third paragraph on November 28, 2023. It should read instead of 2022.
So today, I guess what the FWC board agreed to do was have the executive move forward on negotiations with staff, but they have to return to make a consideration of vote as a committee. The problem that's gonna happen to us is this gonna be, this vote gonna happen? Hopefully it's gonna be Pensacola or some other place where they're meeting, because they meet around the state. So it could be hundreds of miles from here, which is gonna make it really difficult for us to do.
But it requires the agreement of all three parties.
Yes, and I think there's, one of the problems that we have right now, we have a county attorney that is questionable if he wants to defend the county. And, that's an issue, because, I mean, he didn't show up today.
There are other attorneys.
That's our county attorney, I don't know. It's expensive to hire, I mean, it's very expensive for a community to raise money and hire an attorney. Plus, this is an Orange County issue. It's not a private citizen can sue the county to try to do the job. But the county is employed to defend the citizens' will, and we got to make sure the county attorney takes up and fights this. If the legislature says do this, I don't care even what the mayor might want to do. The legislature has a part of this, although unfortunately our charter doesn't say that right now. It's kind of inferred. We're working on that. We're gonna fix that because we got reinstate section 403 in the charter, because that was an illegal vote in '88. And if the charter doesn't do anything, I've already talked to a friend about suing the county, and we get rid of the mayor with that too, because it revokes that whole vote if we go to court as a citizen. So that's the threat. If we don't do something as a charter commission, fix that attorney, someone can sue the county saying that the Florida statute was violated back in '88. It was not properly, the ballot language was not properly put together to reflect its total changes that it actually did in the charter. And that would force potentially a total revoking of that vote, which includes the separation of the mayor and the creation of the mayor.
But for this, 86% of the voters were against the toll road, and then the mayor included voted against it at the recent BCC meeting. So I sincerely don't see how Orange County will agree to this.
He voted against this too.
He did. The only person that voted for the toll road was District 2 Commissioner Christine Moore.
So you think he would support a court order if we go to court?
I don't see why we would have to go to court unless the FWC.
Because if they vote
Right.
to do what they potentially could do and release that land from conservation, then Orange County probably be forced to go to court to fight over the original agreement that we have.
To answer your question, yes, I do think the mayor would be supportive
Okay,
of what Orange County wants in
okay, I hope so.
Do
Yeah.
you know if FWC is the sole conservation easement holder or beneficiary? They are. Why on earth did anybody just give it to one entity when they created it?
Well, it's especially alarming because one of them literally said that they didn't know about this.
That was the chair, wasn't it?
So,
That was the chair.
and the chair also, as you pointed out, is actually, he's served out next January, and they're holding the next meeting in February. Yeah,
In a month, he's out.
and the next meeting on this is going to be a
Now,
month after he's gone.
but there's no guarantee when this is gonna come back. They didn't really direct the date. I didn't hear that.
They said that they would do their negotiations, the executive director would do it, and if they don't come to an agreement, then it would have to come back to the FWC, and they said it was likely gonna be at their next meeting.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Is that
Okay.
in February?
Yeah, it's February the 20th.
Do you
You
know
know where
where?
it's
Do
gonna
they have a
be?
location?
They- Yeah,
Tallahassee.
so,
It's a 4-hour drive for us,
University.
so. So we got a truck, all the citizens up there.
Yeah, I mean, we had 74 people sign up to
Yeah.
speak, and it is
Speak for
disappointing
1
to know
minute.
that no final decision was made, and if they do come back to the next meeting, they're gonna have to drive up there, and we're gonna lose people for sure.
Oh, we
for
got to
sure.
rent a bus or something.
They're counting on.
Well, the problem is, there were people there today that cut school, that cut work.
Right.
There was
to
a
be
lot of
here
momentum
today. And they,
for this
you know,
meeting, especially with the Board of County Commissioners voting against it, like this just had a lot of attention.
Yeah,
If we wait until February, it's definitely gonna die down.
it's gonna lose the momentum it currently is.
the state boards in Florida for literally everything have been trying to do that. Like, I've been to 3 now since early November. Board of Governors in 1 minute, and they cut off 20 people. Board of Medicine cut off 40.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they still allocated 3 minutes, but they cut off 40 people roughly.
Wow.
And now this one, it was a minute per speaker, even though they let some guy go off on a Christmas poem for like 3 minutes before in the off months. It's really weird.
Oh,
But that's how they had organized their.
Yeah, which I get. They did technically go over time, I believe, for discussion for split oak. But like still the fact that they could easily allocate more
I
time.
mean, one of the things, the techniques I think we might want to do next time is we split the group between the open talking and then have key people during the actual time, so you don't get cut so much. Because they looked at the total numbers, and said there's 71 people, we got 1 hour, we gotta cut it back to 1 minute. Because that's always a shared project, so.
Valerie was trying to make it so that the key speakers had more time and then people kind of just piled in and then we just ordered.
Yeah, the issue with that is they don't know how long you're going. There's no guarantee that someone doesn't accidentally talk too long, so. Yeah, in the future, I think we're gonna have to have, if they're gonna play this game, then what we're gonna have to do is put a bunch of people on the before meeting, before they speak. And then have key people who might get the full 3 minutes to do it. That's, somehow we gotta get the number down for that. And then, if it's in Tallahassee, it's gonna be taken care of naturally. There's not a lot of people who do that. shit.
Right.
And that's, it's not really early in the morning.
First
This
time
is-
in my life.
First time in the night.
February?
Yeah.
Which is in recession, by the way. This, that means the hotels are even more expensive. Yeah. So, and for me, that might have a meeting here.
I feel like it's less than the
I mean, we did that for Lee when, on lobbying days, I think, we rented a bus. Yeah, but we did a bus on, I can't remember what lobbying thing we were doing, but we rented a complete bus. And then we just met at Fashion Square, we went, jumped on at 4:35 in the morning, we drove up.
I think that's something maybe Friends of Split Oak could do,
Yeah.
but for all the other citizens that showed up.
But we could put the kitty together and try to put rent a bus and try to raise the money to do that. And say, okay, if you guys want, the bus is leaving at this time, we'll return it to Orlando that night. It's a long day. If you've done it, it's a long day, but if you're not doing the drive, it's not too bad. Crash on.
Another thing also is just approaching groups of as well, like contributions that, like, the thing about split oak is that it's not just an issue, it's also quite an issue.
Oh, it's a huge state.
Yeah, so, of course, like, you're not going to vocalize directly Orange County boss, so they're, you know, they're awesome.
In some ways, I mean, MacGyver was the same issue, except that one slipped through, because that was conservation there too. Without road through that, and one part that they used the statute in that one, which was wrong. But if it comes up in February, we're gonna have to come up, start talking about January and how to do it, because I really think we're gonna have to get something, but, you know, the corridor folks will probably be there, the wilderness people will be there, the state organization will be there, but it's really important that we have a good representation representation of our communities, because we're the ones that are probably gonna fight it. Orange County is obviously ahead of it about conservation. Osceola is struggling because they're economic plus, you know, there's all they see is home building as a come. They're worse than we are.
I was encouraged by the number of people that spoke today that were from Osceola and said, we have to leave alone. We
Yeah.
are not the road.
I
And
think,
so somebody, one of those people said, if the people of Osceola were able to vote,
yes, that's true.
then they would know how. You
I
know,
mean, yeah, unfortunately, I mean, are they in charter? I don't think they're a charter government. But yeah, they're like, to me, they're like us back in the 90s. They're evolving very quickly, but they're like Orange County. Orange County saw nothing but, we need more growth because that's the only thing we have happening. And I think Osceola is like a decade behind right now. And they're gonna realize at some point, oops, we screwed this one up. Instead of saying, hey, maybe Orange County has something here that we shouldn't be sprawling out. The Vision 2050 is a really interesting document because that shows the evolution of our culture has moved to, hey, we can't afford to just build, we need to concentrate. We're finally realizing, many of us have been talking about that for decades, but it took a lot of people finally realization that it's physically impossible to do what they're doing. And if they want to develop all Desert Red Ranch, all 300,000, that's insane. That's bigger than Orlando, multiple times. And they can't afford it. No one can afford that.
Possible.
It's
There's not enough water over there.
and it's when you start digging down, it's very wet soil to begin with. And
Well, too much water that you can't drink and not enough water that you can.
yeah, it's a catch-22. You got plenty of water, but you can't drink it.
Yeah.
And it's all salty. And that's a big problem. It's a little thing that we need to address as a community, that we have a water problem in this state, and it's lack of fresh water. And meanwhile, we're taking drinking water and putting it on lawns. City of Orlando, that's what my water is when I put it on the yard, is drinking water.
Yeah.
And that's wrong, plain wrong. There should be, no home should be built with the irrigation system today. No. I mean,
In the interest of time, do we want to move with Lake Picket North development and the Far Pits?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Give the update on the PNC meeting. I'll give
Well, it's coming up before the Planning and Zoning Commission next Thursday, which is the 15th,
14.
14th?
14th.
That's second.
And
Yeah.
14th,
it's
that's
the
right.
first thing and the only thing. on the agenda.
Yeah, it's a special session. It's gonna be the only thing on our agenda. We're gonna start at 9 o'clock in the morning, like we always do. And we're just gonna go until Sesame is voted on. And then we're gonna leave. And so I hope that a lot of people will show up. I hope that people bring a variety of insights and not just, I don't like this, because that's not a good argument for or against anything. So please come with specific things that have to do with sustainable growth, why this does or doesn't represent sustainable growth in East Orange County. And if not, where should the growth go? And I think that the financial information is key to making a smart decision about this.
Yeah.
And so it's really something that not just the residents of that immediate area should have a voice in, but everybody in Orange County that is concerned about the wise use of our money should come and speak up about this.
Yeah. So some of the components that Gordon is speaking to is Orange County right now has a $20 billion deficit for its roadway infrastructure improvements that are needed. You said billion? 20 billion with a B. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but wow.
There's three more zeros.
So 20 billion. And by 2030, according to the new transportation analysis of Orange County, it's anticipated that 70% of that Orange County owned roads will be an F-rated road. They have we'll call it like the sister development of Lake Pickett North, this Lake Pickett South, the Grove going in was already approved. And the entire time that one was up for, discussion at the PNC, the BCC, wherever it was, we kept chasing them for give us a number for the infrastructure. What's it going to cost us? And they never could give the number. Well, finally now the tax bill comes due, and it's about $450 million. So the developer picked up about 125 to 150 million, and then the rest of the bill goes to the taxpayers. So Orange County, Lake Pickett North, is a even more difficult in terms of infrastructure that's needed to support that. So it'll be more expensive for it. Additionally, just to exacerbate the whole issue of Lake Pickett North, is that they've been having an illegal borrow pit operating for 5 years, where they're excavating sand out of the Econ River, selling the sand and burying debris, and now have groundwater contamination and carbon pollution in the river. There's a cease and desist on the operation, and just this morning on my way to FWC, I snapped a picture of a dump truck pulling out with a load of dirt coming in and out of the borrow pit. So every day debris is going in, it's getting buried in the ground, and then dirt is going out, and it's an illegal operation. We brought it to staff's attention, and staff said, well, they can take out those parcels of land, and then we can consider it. The bigger issue is, yeah, you carved out the pieces of land, but the illegal borrow pit is still ongoing. And the landowner leased the land to the man who's running the illegal borrow pit. But the landowner also owns parcels within Lake Pickett North. So it's the position of the community that because she's owning parcels in Lake Pickett North and it's adjacent land, it's right there, and it's all part of the same swath of land. This project should not even be considered from staff's perspective. Staff has met individually with each of the PNC commissioners, to discuss why it's compatible with Lake Pickett North, or with Lake Pickett text amendment. They haven't.
You never met with me.
Really? They met with everybody else.
Really?
Yeah, they must be like, don't.
Wow, it's so special.
Yeah. Don't waste your time on boarded. We already know what it's about. So,
Pretty much.
So what happens if, let's say it goes through in 10, 15, this place is going out of business. As soon as they're done taking the sand, they're out of business. And who is responsible?
we won't be paying the bill. And
And
that's
how do we make that known? Because right now, it looks like, oh, it's a private business, they're doing this, and I don't know the quality of how they're packing that stuff. It's gonna depress as it rots away. It's gonna create depression. It's gonna be a lot of problems from a land management point of view. It's gonna become dangerous because there's gonna be pits opening up as this stuff decays. Assuming that this guy doesn't sound like he's too good about his ecological methods, he probably isn't doing proper land.
yeah, he has another open lawsuit in Christmas, Florida for another illegal borrow pit operation.
So this is his MO.
Yeah.
There's illegal borrow pits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we should make a huge issue because we're gonna get stuck with hundreds of millions of dollars of costs. Just like right now, okay, we have a permanent one on that actually was built in the 60s along Lake Underhill. There's a 2-lane section out by Lockheed. It's 2-lane because there's a dump there. And that dump was permitted back in 1960. Well, 1960 quality permit was much different than it is in 2020. That's why it's going like this. And that stuff is slowly decaying, and it's a problem. We had a dump right on Glenridge Way. If you remember coming up to Trinity, whoever lives in Winter Park, remember the little humps? That was a dump right there. They had to dig the whole thing out at the cost of whoever was taking it. So that cost on Lake Underhill is what, 30, 40, 50 million just for the easement. Because he was trying to do a shyster thing where he was trying to get us to pay for all the dump, use the next 40 years of tax revenue to pay back his investment of taking the trash out and then moving it over to a higher quality dump, which is Orange County, which is like class 3A compared. This is the rubbish, like what we're talking about. But you're moving it from that quality to a much more expensive landfill, which is Orange County. I guess there's different classes of landfills, and that's a line for contamination.
Yeah, it's lying.
It's line. So we're taking it from a lower quality to a very much more expensive, which means that's less space that we have to grow into because I mean we're already talking about opening more space up, more dumps out there. So here we have another dump that's now in action that we need to shut down as a county. This guy evidently has done this before, and he probably would do it again. Probably has a history we don't know about. And we're going to permit this. That we are now going to. How do we make them bond $100 million that we would guarantee that when he fails as a business, that we get that bond? I mean, this is BS that we don't need to stop.
You know, I have been saying this for a long time. The county needs to do an audit for all of the projects that come before us and make sure that any additional cost of infrastructure is going to be paid for by the long-term increase in tax revenue, right? Because once they build this infrastructure, it's not just built forever, it has to be maintained. And the maintenance costs on the long term are oftentimes going to be more than the initial cost of construction.
Our cemeteries.
And I don't see that the county even thinks about this. All they think about is, oh, we're gonna have $50, 5,000 more people over here. We need to make the roads larger, and then they just give it as an assignment to the Department of Transportation, and then they look at it and are like, oh, 5,000 more people. We need this many more lanes. Nobody's thinking about how much does this cost, and does this make any sense at all?
It's economics. Doesn't make the economic sense.
It doesn't make economic sense to build more stuff out east of the econ.
Low density is not.
The other issue is
Yeah.
that the planning department says they need to support this application because they've supported other applications just like it in the past. They've recommended transmittal, and that it will jeopardize the integrity of the planning department. They also have
I think the
identified
planning department is jeopardizing their own legitimacy by making bad
bad
decisions.
recommendations.
So do we bring that up as an issue that like you can't just because you make one bad decision, two bad decisions don't make it correct.
Right, and then the other
Yeah,
issue is.
they brought it to us before because the grow, as you may recall, had a big piece out of the middle.
Yes.
And then the owner of that piece came to us and they were like, oh, we just want to add this part to the grow, which completely surrounds it. And it failed. And I made the point that, you know what, it was a bad decision when you guys approved it, and adding more to it is not gonna make it a good decision.
Yeah.
So throwing good money after bad is a bad idea.
So what things, okay, we have issue of liability, future liability for the county taking care of this. We want to assume that liability.
The
So
other,
that
the
would
other
be-
is they don't have money for the roads, they don't even have money.
They don't
for
even
the-
know how much this stuff costs.
Yeah.
Well,
They don't even think
we're
about
trying
that.
to give you ammunition for Thursday. So
I know, and so I hope that I hear a lot of members of the public talk about this stuff and not stuff like I came out here so I could be with the bears and the coyotes. It's like
I have
nobody
a pet
cares, and
peeve.
our decision has nothing to do with that. Give us some real data
So
that something
Financial risk.
substantive that we can
legal
hang our hat
responsibility,
on.
detrimental to the environment. We have. So you guys out there
Where do we fit in the illegal borrow pit?
Well, you know,
Where does that,
generally,
and the charity?
you're right, generally, adjacent properties owned by the same owner have to be considered under the same permit. right? Now, you can phase it out, but they probably got it. They probably got companies like LLCs.
Well, I gotta tell you what they did. They created a new LLC called the Lake Pickett North LLC. And Mary Lamar Ribald's name has now disappeared from the application, but she's part of the LLC.
Right,
Yeah.
because she's part of the LLC,
Yes,
but she's not a co-applicant,
yes.
right?
So they took her name off the application.
Right, so
She's the
these
power
are
of the
the kind of legal gymnastics that they do to get out of the responsibility for owning adjacent parcels that are not
in compliance.
in compliance.
So who owns this property right now? Who actually pays the tax bill on it?
Mary Lamar Ribald.
So she owns it.
Yeah.
I don't care about leasing. She owns it. She pays the tax bill.
Yes.
Right.
So I don't care about leasing. She has, it's
Yeah,
just
but
like
now,
a cattle
according
lease.
to her and her attorneys, she doesn't own
But that's,
Sustany because Sustany is owned by the Sustany LLC,
Mhm.
right?
but
So
Who she's the owner of.
Typically, how many
she's
people,
owned,
she's one of the owners, yeah,
how many people attend the P and Z meetings? For this subject,
for Sustany.
yes.
We'll probably have, if the word gets out, we'll probably have 50 to 100 people show up.
Wow.
It's a
Have
popular
they already sent out
or
the
very
mailers?
unpopular thing.
Have they already sent out the mailers?
I don't know. And I also don't know which of the other commissioners are gonna be there. So, I mean, there are certain commissioners that can be relied on for a yes vote for anything. And there are certain commissioners who will vote yes or no depending on the merits of the case.
Do you guys will you have a quorum in a special session?
We're not gonna do anything if we don't have a quorum. If we don't have a quorum, we're just gonna go home.
who's the number 3?
No, there's
The 7?
9.
Oh,
So,
so you need 5.
so there's the 6 commission districts and 3 at large.
So you need 5 then.
So we need 5. But if if there's certain ones that are not gonna be there, I can just about guarantee you it's gonna pass. Because there are some people on that commission that are gonna vote yes for everything, regardless of how bad it is.
Like Camille Evans.
I'm not gonna name names. You guys can figure out who they are. Just look at their record.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that those people are out there. And they're on that commission. So if they show up and 2 or 3 of the other people don't show up, it's gonna pass. Regardless of the merits of the case. So I don't even know if our elected commissioners know if their appointed P and Z commissioner is gonna show up. Has anybody done the counting? Counting of votes is very important.
Yeah, we gotta
Yeah.
get someone,
Somebody needs to
someone
count
here
those
has to
votes.
be, someone has to go vote.
I know George is showing up. George Wiggins is showing
Okay,
up.
that,
Okay,
He's a no.
well, I don't know if he's a no, but he's a person that can be swayed one way or the other. I know this.
he listens, sorry.
He
I mean,
does,
that's
yeah.
all you need, someone that actually listens and not falls asleep. Yes,
He told me he was a no.
okay, so we need someone here that can reach out and talk to each other. Maybe we need to definitely talk to the ones.
You probably can't do that, I don't know.
I don't think we're.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Yes, that's
I-
right, because you mentioned you do.
I don't feel like that
We
I
have-
can do it either.
No, you can't do
But
it.
I think that somebody else needs to do that. Somebody needs to count the votes and see if we have enough votes.
We need a whip, we need a
One
whip,
is a no. So we got one. I know 4 is a no.
but we just need to go, you and I will talk. We need to go.
Right, so,
And then, I'm willing to go lobby some of the commissioners or some of these people that are not necessarily.
oh, and I want to know more about this meeting that they had with every other of the commissioners on P
I'll
and
show
Z.
you the text.
Yeah, no, I'm interested because I would bring that up.
Everybody got a meeting.
Everybody but one.
Well, who else didn't get one? I mean, that.
There's somebody else that didn't.
Is the planning department playing favorites on who we need to talk to?
No, but this is what I asked. Let's see.
mentioning.
And I think we'd like to have a community meeting after that PNC sometime in January.
That's it.
So what things
If
would,
it does pass, it's going to the board.
going
right?
with,
Right.
So we'd like a community meeting before.
name a couple of things that would cause a lot of stress for the commission. You know the other commissioners, what things would stress them if we can figure it out? And then go through it.
It's hard for me to judge what motivates other people.
You've seen over the
But-
time.
What motivates me and well, the argument that had a lot of resonance last time when it was denied unanimously was the money situation. Now, the developer came and he had covered his bases for the environment, thinking that that was going to be the big problem that he had to solve. And I kind of ignored that because to me, the money situation is more important. And I totally believe that if the county takes care of its money in a very careful and wise way, a lot of these other problems will take care of themselves, like potable water, conservation of wildlands, stuff like that. It's just never going to be economically viable to make bad decisions regarding the water or the wildlands if you really have to count every dollar you're going to spend. And so I always kind of concentrate on that, and that seemed to be an argument that had resonance with the other members of that commission.
So looking at this thing as, okay, you're gonna put 2,500 homes there supposedly.
Yeah, so what I would want to know,
Generally.
and obviously they don't do their homework, because not only are they not charged with doing it, but I think that they know that it would argue
Sink or
against
ship, yeah.
their recommendation of approval. But what I would want to know is like, how much is it going to cost to extend potable water out to this development?
But they won't give you the number we've asked
How
for.
much is it going to cost to take the wastewater from the development and send it to the wastewater plant? How much is it going to cost to
For
build
the
the
fire
road?
station,
How much is the fire station going
how
to
much is
cost?
the new school?
And they don't know the answer to these
How much are the
questions.
parks?
In large part because they don't want to know the answer to this question, because they do know that the answer to that question would argue against their recommendation of
let's-
approval.
Let's say it's 2,500 homes. Tax revenues,
Yeah.
$10,000 each.
So it's 2,000 homes.
That's 2,000, well, it's $20 million a year they would collect. How's that sound? Does that make it a profitable venture for the county to be able to get the police?
Yeah, so if you're just talking about, I don't know why.
That's your money. That's the dollars. Let's say it's $20 million a year that you're collecting off all the.
Yeah, and then, but that's
your-
like, you have to look at that. You
That's
have to
your.
look at the cost of the infrastructure,
What
amortized over
what I'm
time,
saying is,
and the tax revenue over time.
I'm paying you $20 million a year. You're telling me there's a bunch of costs. Does that $20 million cover all those costs?
No.
That's the question.
I know, but they're not gonna answer that question.
And that's the
Because
question to you guys.
of two reasons. They are not responsible for coming up with that answer, and they don't want to because they know that answer would argue against their recommendation of approval.
So, as a tax person, as a citizen who's now retired and has to deal with this all the time on what any of us as human beings have to deal with. How much money do we bring into our house and how much goes out? That's exactly the same equation that they're working with. They got $20 million coming in. And you got road improvements, you got sewer improvements, you got all these improvements, plus then you got operational costs. Your fire station, and a fire station alone, you're talking 3 shifts of people, 3.5 shifts, because you got those people work 24-hour shifts. So the actual personnel, it would be interesting to pull the numbers up for a fire station of a similar size and see what the buying a pumper now is over $1 million. An EMT vehicle is what, half mil? Then the personnel, you got 3.5.
We already.
So we have those numbers. We can pull those numbers and say, okay, here's 20 million. It's the $1 debate here. You got $1. How do you want to spend it? Do you have
Right.
enough money, Gordon, to make this work? No.
But they don't have those
And
answers.
that's but I'm gonna say that to you guys on Thursday. That I'm giving you 20 million bucks, guys.
You should.
Tell me how you're gonna make this
And-
work,
and
because you got.
make your comments and questions as detailed and specific as possible.
We need the cost of fire department. How much does it cost to build a firehouse? How much does it cost to buy the engine, a truck? What is the maintenance cost? You got maintenance people, additional hours that you have to allocate to your maintenance pay that actually maintain those vehicles. You got maintenance costs of the oil and all those things that go into the vehicles.
And that's probably a minor one. The major ones are gonna be the roadway,
The new middle
The-
school.
Those are,
the middle
but-
school,
but those-
all the plumbing to
If
take
you
fresh
can't
water
take
out
care
there,
of
all the plumbing to
a
get the
fire
wastewater
department
back.
alone is millions of dollars a year.
I
You're
know,
talking,
but we're talking about other expenses that dwarf that.
yeah, but I'm talking $20 million, and yeah, I just say your whole budget off of just one firehouse.
Yeah, it's like they could barely pay for the new fire
I mean,
house with the tax revenue for that many.
yeah, because you got a 3-minute limit,
And
because
then the argument against this is, well, people have to live somewhere.
oh,
Georgia
Well, okay
said-
then, how much does it cost in additional infrastructure costs to put that many people in a place like downtown
Fashion
Orlando?
Square, let's knock that down, and let's, well, we
How
got the
much would
pipes.
it cost to put that same number of homes and
Oh, we
closer
have-
in?
we have
It's
three-
gonna be a fraction of as much.
We have minimally 3 fire departments in range of Fashion Square. We have all the pipelines, we have all the fire, we have
Right.
everything.
You have
And
jobs.
we have, and your cost, plus we convert a links loop out to that now and connect to UCF downtown. It's easy. We don't really increase the traffic because we can actually create a loop of links. Oh, whatever you want, what's the next thing we're on the list? We've done Orange, Grapefruit, and other, that's, what other cities?
Are you
do we
doing a
want?
limo,
Yeah, we use limo. We do a limo.
BRT?
Yeah, BRT, essentially, we're gonna create another, that's what Fashion Square could be. It could be easy to put 5,000-6,000 people there, mixed use. Easily.
Yeah, so I had reached out to some Yummy and I haven't heard back from any of them. Do you know about Yummy?
Yeah, I mean, Eric sits on the
So
committees.
if I could get some of the Yummies to come out, that would be great, because I don't wanna just have rural people from East Orange County. It's great if they show up, they have their own viewpoint.
Yeah, but the
But
IMBs, the most,
Urban people also have a viewpoint about what constitutes sustainable development. And at the end of the day, it's not those few people out in East Orange County that are gonna be called on to pay for all this stuff. So it's gonna be those of us that live efficiently in the urban parts of the county. That's who they're gonna want to pay for all of this
I mean,
spending.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
All right, you said that the developer is gonna say they don't have the numbers for this infrastructure. They don't know how much it's gonna cost.
they don't.
Why would your committee approve it without that information?
I don't know. This is why I've brought this up so many times. Because it makes no sense to spend money in a foolish way. None of us do this in our home
Right.
economies. Why would the county do it?
Why can't your committee say to them, we'll come back when you have the answers to those questions and we'll talk about it?
so
We're,
can you legally do
you know what, I don't know if we can, because we our purview. So staff sees our purview as, you're supposed to look at the zoning issues. You're not supposed to look at these other things. And many of
Doesn't make sense.
my fellow commissioners on PNC see it that way. And they'll say, well, this is really outside of our purview to think about act for recharge or potable water. Our purview is the zoning. And this is the way it's pushed
But
by
isn't it called
by
planning and
staff.
zoning? Isn't it?
Because all of the material that's presented to us doesn't come from the wastewater department. It doesn't come from the transportation department. It comes from the planning department. And what they do is zoning. That's what they know. They don't know zip about finance.
But planning,
And so, but what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to evaluate these cases based on whether they comport with the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan is comprehensive, and it includes stuff like aquifer recharge, potable water, transportation, education, and zoning and future land use conservation. and all these things. And so I see our purview as being very broad because it includes whether or not it comports with the comprehensive plan. And then in addition to that, whether or not a proposal is consistent and compatible with the surrounding land uses.
Which is not at all, right? To the west, to the east.
I know, but it's very difficult to get some of the other commissioners on the P and Z to look beyond the zoning.
But the kicker is your P and Z, planning and zoning. Planning means planning. Planning does not zoning. If you go to buy a house, the first thing you got to ask yourself, can I afford this? And you start doing the math. And you start thinking, can I come up with the money? Can I, there's a bunch of,
Yeah, well, that's not the way they work.
but it's planning. I'm
They
sorry,
come
that
up, they come up
definition's wrong.
with approval for a development, and then they start asking people to pay for it.
It's asked
To pay for
backwards.
all of the infrastructure that is
It's a Hail
required to
Mary
support
throw.
it.
It's like, oh, we'll have the money. It's like a gambler, right? Don't
Yeah, but you know where they're gonna get the money? They're not gonna get the money from the developer.
No,
They're not gonna get the money from the people that live out there. They're gonna come to people like me, people that have lived in an efficient way to actually use public transportation. We're the ones that they're gonna come and get the money from.
Or then service, quietly cut services that we don't recognize right when we need the service.
I apologize, gentlemen, it's 8:00 because this is a county building, we do have a strict limit to the room. I do appreciate you all being here,
All right,
it
we'll
was
go.
a
Thank
very
you.
productive meeting.
So we
Thank you so
need
much.
people to come on the 14th, make those.
Yeah,
points.
so please get people to come out, not only from East Orange County,
Right,
but I would love to see our urbanites come out there
Say, I
and
wanna
speak
pay
on
this.
behalf of sustainable development and say, I don't wanna pay for this, this is nonsense.